Hi all, hope you are doing well and thanks for joining. I'm Anjali. I'll be conducting this session. I'm working as a Salesforce consultant from past 10 years and we'll be talking about flow today. And thanks for joining firstly on Saturday evening and that too when IPLs are going on. Thanks a lot. So let's start with our session. I'll quickly share my screen. So today's topic is about Salesforce flows. I know many people have already started creating flows. They must be knowing the concept of flows. But let's start with the history. Like firstly, Salesforce introduced, uh, you know, a workflow which has lesser features, but it was a point and click way of uh, automation, and we don't have to code. There were limitations, like we can do only certain things with workflows. Then came process builders, wherein we were given some more features, wherein we can create a record, we can call external systems. So, and again, it was a visualized screen that was given without any code required. So after that, we were introduced to flows. Initially, flows were at their beta stage. Those who were using flows, sorry, are you guys able to hear me correctly?
Yes,
Yes.
Anjali, we can
Yeah,
hear.
Yes.
yeah. So now Salesforce is like adding more features to flows, and as you know, it's uh, like no code or minimal code for flows, and it's a very easy way to configure a lot many complex requirements which we would have otherwise done using Apex code. So basic definition flow, it's a automation tool wherein we can perform certain actions. We can also call it external systems. So I'll just quickly we'll try to be in the org as much as possible. We don't, this PPT is just basic, it's just a conceptual thing, but we'll try to be in the org and try creating flows and understanding how it works. So we can quickly go to flows. Whenever if you have a dev org, where you'll see that there's already certain flows available in the Salesforce. So these are some of the flows that Salesforce provided out of the box. We can also utilize these flows if we want to use the templates. If they are available, it's given as template available. We can create new flows. If I go and click on new flow, I'll be asked like what type of flow do you want to create. So we'll come back here on the types of flows. So majorly, if we categorize, there are two types of flows: screen flow and auto-launched flow. Auto-launched flow is further categorized as scheduled, record, platform, and auto-launch with no trigger. So screen flow, it requires user interaction. So there's a user interaction involved. There's a set guided instructions that a user needs to follow, and behind the scenes we can have some features like creating a record basis user input. All those things we can achieve through screen flow. If you can see, if someone asks you like what is the difference between a process builder and a flow, then you can certainly highlight screen flow, because we don't have such a thing in process builder or workflow. So this is something which is a kind of handy and great feature that we have as part of flows. So let's move on to screen flow first. So screen flow, just click on. Now, as you can see, if by default it's auto layout, so you won't see anything much here. But if I select free form, I'll get all the elements and manager tab. So if we now see this is called as flow builder. So in this flow builder, there are three major components that we need to understand. Firstly, this panel, which gives us the elements, different elements that are available for you, for use. And this second thing, this is the canvas where we can drag and drop the elements, and like as per the requirement, we can set up the flow. And these are the buttons, like to activate, to save, and you need to, if you need to change the settings, so you can do so from here. These are one thing. Now, if I give you one example, quick example of existing flow, you can see it's a out of the box flow that is provided by Salesforce, which is for create case. Now you will notice that in this you can have three major categories. I'll quickly go back to the PPT and show what are the key building blocks of flows. So key building blocks of flow are elements. Now, what are elements? Elements are these things: this assignment, create record, screen, decision. All these comes under elements. Connectors. Connectors, you can see this path, like from assignment, I need to go to screen, screen one, confirm customer info, then so on. So these are connectors, which like creates a path for us, like how the flow should go. This is the path, how the flow, this particular flow should run. Then there are resources. What are resources? Suppose I click on this assignment, I can see these things, variables. These are all resources which we can like use how we want to set up. For screens, we have different type of resources. We can do that. We can set up here. So these all are comes under resources. Now, if we start with the screen flow, let's go and try to build a screen flow. Now, before building any flow, you must have heard in most of the flow videos in that they say that you need to plan the flow. Now, what it means to plan the flow? Suppose I tell you that there's a requirement where you want to create, like user will have to give some inputs, and then once user enters the inputs, you need to save the details in certain record. You need to create certain record. Now after hearing that, you cannot directly go and start working on the flow. Like you will get confused, like what I should add. Should I add screen? Should I add assignment? So to avoid that, you need to first plan it. Like, okay, now there is an ask wherein I have to take input from user. Then in that case, I will need screen. I'll need this element. I'll just quickly. I'll need the screen. Then I have been told once the user inputs all the details, then I should create a record. Then definitely I'll need a element of create record. For now, I'll just pick one. Now, thing is that you need user input here. Now you want to understand what kind of user input, like what all details should be there in the user input. Should it have his name, his email ID, phone number? Like for example, if we want to create certain contact, then we definitely need the name and email and phone number of that user. So these all details you need to plan it first before you actually start working on the flow. So for now, I just need as I need to create, what I'm going to do is I have a survey object here. So I want, like, if I want user to input the details, comments, and whether this demo was useful or not. So this is the details that I want from user. And I'll go to my screen flow. I can see that my comment is a text area. So I'll say any text field. If I want long, I can take that field. I can say comments. Now, here there are certain features that Salesforce provides. Like if we want to mark this as require, that if users should enter value in this, this has to be required. If there has to be any default value, in certain cases, you if it is required, you don't need a default value. But if suppose you for if there are certain validations in the backend, but you don't want user to worry that he enters any value in this field, so you will put some default value. You can see your component visibility. So there are multiple options, whether there has to be conditions basis certain conditions, or it should be always. For now it will be always. If you select any of these conditions, the component will be visible only when those conditions you have set up are met. So that's one. Then validate input. If suppose for this, if you can picturize, if you are giving email as an input or phone as an input, so you want some validation. Okay, this should be there should be a .com or .n in the email ID. So email validation you can put here. If user is not entering in that format, you can show an error message here. So you can do that. And if you want to help provide certain help text, this is similar to the thing when we create a field in Salesforce. We provide all this inputs when creating a field in Salesforce. Similarly here as well, we need to follow the same steps. So I have done this. Then I also want a checkbox field wherein mouse is not working correctly. Rating. Now, if suppose you want to give certain emojis here, this is world of emojis. You can give, if you want to give any emojis, you can give it. Then default value again, same things. I don't want this right now. I'll say done for now. Then create record. Firstly, I'll create everything and then I'll set up the paths. So I want only one record. Use all the values. Now you can see there are multiple options here. How many records? One or multiple? For now, I want only one record. But you can also select if you want to create more than one record. Now, in how to set the record fields, you have two options. Use all values from a record or use separate resources and literals. As this is a screen flow, I know I will be getting the inputs from my screen. I'll for now select a use separate resources. But I can also choose this. In this case, I need to select the record out of which I want to create the values, create new record. For now, I'll create use separate resources and literals. Now for which object? As I mentioned, I'll create for survey. This for survey. Which fields I want to link? You There could be mandatory fields already defined in your object. So accordingly, you can like use those field in the screens, or in case you don't want user to enter certain fields but those are mandatory, you can default it. So I'll say comment. If you can see here, you get a section screen components. So these are components that I have defined. As many components you define, you will find those here in this screen component section. Global constants, there are certain things that Salesforce already provided out of the box which are constants. Like if there's a checkbox, then definitely there will be a true and false value. If it's we want to compare any string for empty string, then there's this empty string which compares whether the text, the field that is empty or not. So these are certain things that already Salesforce provided. Upon that, you can also create your own variables. We'll come to variables, how to create that in our later time. Then survey ID from record, we can store that if we want it in our next screen that we want to get the records, then we can store the survey ID. Now here you can see certain global variables. Global variables, if there are scenarios wherein you want to see if this is the user or if this is the profile, then this conditions we use when we are doing it for certain set of users. So for now it's comments, and then I'll add ratings. So done. Now I want that user should first see the screen. So I'll map it here. This is the path. Then from screen, it should be the create record. And from create record, it should be the end. This is what I want. This is my current requirement. Now if I haven't saved it because I already have a flow created, similar flow. So what I'll do is I click on survey. I'll get this. Okay, rating. Okay. So there's this record created. With the inputs that I gave. So this is about the screen flow. You can do, like you can add any number of fields. You can add a file upload option in case you want to create a case or any support ticket. You can add a file upload option. You can display images. You can have pick list. So these are certain inputs that you can give as part of screen flow. So this is something which it's not available in process builder, and which you can utilize. And if you consider, if suppose there's not a concept of flow in the parallel universe, then we have to write an apex code for that. So or a lightning component wherein certain code knowledge is required. But with flows, it becomes easy. It's point and click. You can drag and drop, and you can add all the details what you want. You can also configure the footers, configure the header. If you are going to make this as a web page, then you want certain headers to be shown, certain footers to be shown. So here, as I have done like show header, so I'm getting, if I click, go back and click on the survey. If I it's like if you want to show header, it will be shown, then footer as well if you have any header or footer available. So you can do that as part of screen flow. So this is for screen flow, and this is the start of flow. Let's go back to the types of flows. Now you can see there's this auto launched flow. Now, what are auto-launched flow? Screen flow, as I already mentioned, like there's a user interaction involved. There's a guided set of instructions that you develop or configure as part of screen, and user has to follow that, and then you perform certain actions in the backend. But for auto launch flow, there are certain requirements which really don't need any user input. You want to update certain field, you want to create certain records basis update of fields. So all those things you don't need any user to have a trigger uh, for that. So then it comes the auto launch concept. In auto launch concept, you have schedule trigger first. Now, as the name says, you can schedule the flow. So you can schedule certain flows to run for certain period of time. Best example is sending out email notifications. If you want that there's a case record that is assigned to one user and he is not updating the status, is not working on that, so he can get regular notifications. So that could be one of the requirement you can achieve through scheduled this, or you can use uh, different asynchronous processes you want to run. You can use scheduler for that. This is one out of the box scheduled flow that Salesforce provides. So it says if it is checking the status as cancelled, basis that there's a screen interaction. These are all screen interactions. In this, you can schedule it to run when suppose the user is putting service appointment status as cancelled, then there will be some set of action that should happen, and at that time this flow will be auto triggered. As soon as the record status changes to cancelled, this will be triggered. The flow will be triggered automatically. So this is schedule trigger. Then there's a record trigger. If you want to create, update, or like same record or new record, you can go for record trigger. Then there are platform event triggers. If you want to fire certain event, basis certain platform events, you can call the flow. That's one. And no trigger, like basis certain condition, it will be called automatically. So these are certain types of auto launch trigger. Now we'll take one example. Like let's go and create one auto launched trigger flow. There's I have created one already. Let's take auto launched. Now in this auto launched trigger, just keep auto layout. Now what action do you want to perform? So you can like is there any decision involved? Do you first need to get the record? Those all things, that's why when we say we need to first plan the flow, these are the decisions that we need to make when we are planning the flow. So I'll simply say I have this, I just want to update a field by basis account creation. So I've just taken this, I'll simply show it here. I want to perform and in the, let me click here. So I want to create a record. So I'll say I want, I want to update a record. So I'll say I want to update a record, which is of account field update. Now here it is how to find records to update and set their values. Now there are two options. It says use IDs and all field values from a record or record collection, or specify conditions to identify the record. You can specify certain conditions to identify the records. But we'll say use IDs. If you want, we don't have any kind of conditions, you can say use IDs, record or record collections. So in this, you have different type of uh, resource type. So variable. If suppose you have in your previous step you have any get record, you can set variable for that here. So you can do that. Then there's a constant. If you want to have certain constant value, you can select the data type. Also, you can select. Then there is a formula field. If you want certain formula, a text template, all these options you have as part of resource. Before that, like when we have this auto launch flow, I'll showcase this flow. So here in the start, it's a record triggered flow. So what is record triggered flow? If you go to this flow, you will see there are options when you have to trigger the flow, whether it's on record creation, whether it's on record update, or it's on create or update, or it's on delete. So for create, you can directly like set certain conditions and you can say done, or if you don't set any conditions, that's also fine. But on update, now see, flow works in the similar way as trigger works. So when you say that it has to be on update, you need to make sure that it is not called every time. It is only called when your conditions are met. And if certain record has already your condition met, you don't need to call the flow for that particular record. So you need to have that condition. Okay, if this is true, then go and update the record, or else don't need. But just to showcase you like how you can set the entry conditions, I have already put some condition. I have taken type field on account as null. So I've used this constant which I showcased you. Now there, if you can see here in the optimize the flow for, so I am doing on creation of record, I want to update the same record. So it's okay if it's a fast field update. Now, what is fast field update? Fast field update, you must have seen there's we have this order of execution in Salesforce. So there's certain actions which are performed before the record is actually saved to the database, committed to the database, and there are certain actions which works after the record is set to the database. So when it's a fast field update, it works like a before trigger. I don't want to put a lot of technical jargons here. I'll keep it simple. It's a point and click. So we'll say in a simple term that it will update the field before actually a record is created in the database. That's how the fast field updates work. Actions and related records, we have to save this to the database, and after that only this flow will be called. Now if suppose you want this through this flow you want to call external system, then you need to click on this that include a synchronous path, so that you can have certain transactions on the external system. So you can do that call external system. But for fast field update, you can see it's not available because it's on the current, and it's logical because there's no record till available on the database. So it doesn't make any sense to call the asynchronous process. Then Here I'm doing update the record. Now, how to find this options when there was no, uh, any precondition set? There were only two options. If you would have noticed, if I directly update the record, I can see only two options here. Like these are the two options because I haven't added any conditions or any updates at the first. Now here you can see there are three options. You can use the account record that triggered the flow. You can have IDs and values, or you can specify certain condition. They also give a disclaimer or a warning because you have it on a before event of the record. You can run only for that record. You cannot have any related records. So here I'm not taking any conditions, but you can have certain conditions here. Suppose you can add like active is true. So you can take this global constant. If the account is active, then it should update the record. And I'm setting the SLA field to bronze. SLA field is a pick list value. You can have once you click, if you can see, if I show you one, I have already checked for SLL field, so I'll not be given that option anymore. Like you have already set, you are setting this field here, so automatically that option will go from your drop down. So you can select any other option, like you want account, source, all these things you can set up here. So once I do that, I'll quickly go to the account and see whether it's working. So uh, as I said, it was on creation of account, creation of record. So I'll create a new account record. And the entry condition was type. There has to be certain value in the type field. So I'll save this. Let's see if I have SLA. See, I have this field populated, SLA as bronze. I think till now everyone are okay. If the speed is too fast, you can tell me in the chat. I'm not checking the chat right now, but you can tell me if the speed is fast. Now, besides a creation of flows, you also need to understand like how we are going to debug the flow, like troubleshooting options in code or in process builder. As in process builder, if we can take the example, we do have this email we can set up to get the errors. Similarly, in flows, you can have that setup. Before that, I'll show what flow trigger explorer it is nothing but it will show all the flows which if it's there's a field update, then it will show the flows which are under that. Then there are related record update, those flows will be shown here. And if there's any asynchronous action, those flows will be shown here. So that is a flow explorer. Now how we have to debug the flow in the account. If you can see, there's a button as debug without changes, debug. Now it will ask me whether you want to skip the start condition, if you want to run the flow as other user. So I'll just take this account test and I'll run this. Here you will get the details. This is to debug your flow. So what, this is the account ID that you received, who is the user, entry condition, update record. So you'll get all these details. So if you want to check if I have already run this debug again. I'll show what it is. I have already run this in rollback mode. That's why there won't be any actions happening on the account record. So in this way, you can actually debug your flows. Like if you want to see that whether it's actually updating or whatever actions you have given, whether it's performing that, you can see this. But this is limited. These are the limited options that you receive as part of debug. One thing you can also do is to set up email. If you go to process automation template settings, you will have that you want to send process emails or flow errors to emails. So whom do you want to send? Or there's any other recipient. The one who last modified, you can send to them, or you can send to apex exception email recipient. So you can do that. And this also says when you, now I have debugged as myself, but if I try to debug as someone else, then I need to see that this particular user should have permissions of this, permissions of certain fields if we want to show as part of the email. Now this is also one thing, send an email if every time same record is updated. So all these settings you can put, and you will receive, or the one who modified, admin also can receive. So one who modified the record, he will receive an email like this in certain way, like this is the one, that error. You can put, you can customize this email also. So here comes the section wherein we go to troubleshooting flows. Creating flow is easy. Now these are the simple flows I have shown you just to understand the components, the elements that are available, and the features that we can utilize as part of flows. But when there could be certain requirements wherein there will be multiple uh, screens, there will be multiple assignment resource that you have used. So in that case, debugging with this limited information becomes difficult. So in that case, you can have an email setup. You can see like which, why the record, which record, at which point the error came. You can do that. So here are two options. Either you can send a process flow error email, or you can send an apex exception email. So that's one. Quickly we'll see one existing flow, which is create case flow. Now here you can see there's a fault path. Now why fault path? Whenever we say that there, these are the different options wherein you can have debug bit improved for your flow. So if I say I need a fault path, so why do I need a fault path? Suppose edit element. Let me add a, this is end of it. Let me edit the flow. Say for example, I'm adding a screen here, one more screen. Back, we'll get the record. Wait a second, I'll do one thing. Loop it. I'm checking. Suppose let's take this example. In this, it's saying that it is taking input from the user with all these values. Now here there's a fault path. Now why there's a fault path? If suppose user did not enter certain values, so I want to give an error, okay, this is not, user haven't done it, so there will be a screen that is displayed like this, these are the information that is not entered. So that is a fault path, like a try catch thing. It is similar to that we have in Apex code. So fault path, it's for simple flow. I won't suggest to have a fault path, but if your flow has multiple actions like this, it's better to have a fault path, which will help you to like avoid errors or get to know errors what exactly are happening. So you can do it through fault path. That is one thing. So out of this, if you can, whenever you, if you are already designing certain flows or you are yet to start, you will see that there are certain elements that you use on, like, excessive use of those elements, like assignment is one of that element, decision, loop, get records. So all these elements are used in most of the scenarios. If I try to add, like, I will try to understand what these elements are. So assignment, so I want to assign, so, a variable to this count. So either you can take it from the account record. This flow is on account, that's why it's showing me the record as account. If you can take it from any flow, you can do that. But you can create also a new resource. In the new resource, again, you have variable options. So I'll take constant. I'll say if this is Boolean. For default, it should be false. I've assigned, I'll check this variable. Wait a second. So it's not there's some issue with this. Let me try again. Some refresh issue. I'm not sure why it's not saving it, but anyways, so you can define those variables here. You can also go to the record. You can take any value from the account record and you can set it here. Suppose I want to take account source. Account source equals to what I wanted. Now you can see whatever account source, this is a pick list value. So whatever options are available, it will be shown here. You want to see whether you want to use web or other, or you want certain value. If it's not a restricted pick list, you can add a text value also. So you can say that that is done. So I have assigned this to the record, which will be going to, like, which will be created as part of this. So whenever an account is, a record is created, the variable, the account source should be what I have assigned is web. Now before, one thing most of the people sometimes don't save this thing. So you need to always save the flow with a new version, or if you want, like, if you make changes and you leave it, it will not be saved automatically. You need to save it as a new version or a new flow if you want as a new flow. Now, here are certain options that we can select. Like, if we are using, I have shown you certain flows which are already provided by Salesforce out of the box. So if you want to use template of that, you can actually select in this screen and you can save that. So you can, if you want to override any packaged flow, so there's this outbound flow. So if you want to override that, you can do that. If you want to have a template used, like, here there are the flows. So the ones which are checked are available to use, these templates are available to use. So you can actually override and have a new version. You can actually make use of this create case and add upon the standard what is provided. You can add your requirement. As per your requirement, you can modify this. These are the options you can do. These are one thing. And you will also see that you have an option of subflow. Now, what are subflows? If I want to reference some other flow, if I want from this, I want to call demo session flow, then I can do that. Now, how do I want to call it? What should be the path? So let's say after this create record, this mouse is acting up for me. I don't know what's happening. So in this way, I can call the subflow. So you can do that as well. Majorly, the thing is that there are lot many features that flows are providing, wherein you don't have to write any code. You can do it through point and click. But thing here is, you can definitely perform, like, you can implement any sort of requirements using flows that you otherwise do using Apex code. You can make use of flows and implement the requirements. But thing is that there are certain requirements for which you need to think whether should I go with flow. Because this if I say I'm creating a record, I'm calling a DML. So you understand that there's certain government limits as far as flows are concerned. So flows do adhere to the governor limit of Salesforce. So if we have, and that's why it's suggested that whenever your flow has any DML operations, better consolidate them and perform at once. So that will avoid the DML, more number of DMLs. Similarly, if there are any get records in the backend will do a SOQL. So if you have a complex requirement wherein you are going to call lot many SOQLs and DMLs, in that case, I don't suggest flow as an option, because there's maintenance issue because maintaining a complex flow is also a task. And besides going with that, it is uh, preferred to have Apex code. You can use Apex code to have that implemented. So here comes the point when we have to decide, is it, when you see the requirement, just because it's a great feature, that doesn't mean all the requirements we can actually try and start building on flow. No, you have to understand, you have to see that, okay, these are the requirements, these are some of the requirements which can actually be done through there are or if you want to update or if you want to set certain field values to basis certain rules, you can go for formula fields. So you can actually, before starting to work on the flow, you need to understand uh, whether this requirement really requires a flow, or is there a better feature other than flow I can use. That is one thing. Second thing is you need to plan the flow correctly. Like you need to first plan it, like what all, if it's a screen flow, then what all inputs am I going to get from the user, what should be the mandatory fields. All these things you need to plan it. You can have a flow chart, or you can just have a rough work done. Okay, this is that, this is the input, this is where from one screen I should go to second screen, I get the record. So all these things you need to first plan and then start actually working on the flow. So there are many elements. I tried to keep it simple because I don't wanted to confuse anyone here. I know many of the people would already be working on flows and they must be knowing all these things already. But for all of you, it's just want to share some easier way to showcase the features. We can definitely like go for advanced sessions as well, but for now these are this session, the thought process behind this was to showcase how we can better use the flow feature in Salesforce, and what are the resources that are available as part of flow, and what sort of requirements can be done as part of flows. So that's, is there will take 15 minutes for the queries, and I think 15 minutes there is a quiz session, Sonali.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
Anjali. So there are few questions in the chat, and if any
Yeah.
participant want to ask verbally, they can unmute themselves and ask. Otherwise,
Yes,
put on
sure.
chat.
Yeah, we can add screen elements. Pratiksha, we can add screen elements. Before update and after delete. Sai, can you elaborate more, like what exactly you want to talk here? You can
Yeah,
definitely
actually,
have yeah, but on different records. That should be the thing.
yeah,
Because
because in trigger we achieve like before update and after delete, right? So because here I saw the options only for update or insert. It would be of after update only, right? Not the before.
yeah, it will be after update. There's before
And what about delete?
delete also. It you can have like before, you can have before update also on flows, that is there, but it will be on there are two options. I'll, my screen is shared, right? So I'll quickly show it here. Where is that? Mhm. Let me take
So the
into
question here
account
is,
now.
can we achieve before update and after delete in a flow, right, Anjali?
Yes, but it will because before update on the same record won't be possible. Both the actions on same record won't be possible. You can have those actions, but on different records. You can
Oh,
have before update and uh, delete actions in one flow, but on different records. In schedule flow, we have only three options for frequency. Yes. If we have a requirement like to run the flow like 10 days, 15 days, how can we achieve this? Okay. Gautam, I'll answer your question. Then Sagar, can we run loop to run n number of times? No, we need to set the number or else. it will have recursion. Then for the schedule flow, yes, we have frequencies. For now, we can do whatever frequencies are provided by Salesforce. We can do according to that only, daily, weekly, and monthly.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? I am missing anything. Maximum number of records we can update or one instance. It is as per the governor limits, Ankita.
Hi Anjali, this is Ankita.
Yeah.
So what is the government limit currently? Because I was trying one create a flow, but I got this exception. So just wanted to know.
So you were trying to create a flow. So how? What was it exactly? What exception you got?
So the exception was you have exceeded the limit, or you have zero recipients in the email sender.
Okay. So your email was having recipients basically, but then it says that the
Yeah,
record exceeded.
yeah.
So in that flow itself, you were having how many records you were updating or creating?
Uh, I actually queried it, so it was around 100 records.
So it should ideally give 100 records. If you queried it, it will give.
Okay. Yeah, but what is the maximum limit, like government limit?
Governor limit, I don't exactly know the count, but I'll just give the link. You can find it on Salesforce Help also. So, so here you can like find all the limits. You will see. You can also um, have governor limits of DML. Same limits. I believe it's the same limits as Apex codes. So Flow will also adhere to that.
Okay, thank you.
Query, no, we cannot query. It's a point and click. Get record is actually a query. So it's for Vasant. We cannot query. Can subflow of any type like a record trigger? Yes. Rupesh, it's yes. Can subflow of any type? It's yes. Is there any other question? Pause. You can pause different flows. Like I'll quickly show this pause thing. So if, for example, I'll take for example, there's a screen flow, and you want to pause that flow. If I'll just quickly go to my screen flow that I have created. I can actually, while the flow is on, I can have this paused, the current flow version paused, and In that, it's not actually deactivated, but it is for that particular step it's paused, and I can have like what like here I can get the details, like why it was paused reason, then fail date. This scenario you will mostly when there's any discount offer. If you want that this discount for this period, it should be on hold, and after say 10 days I want to activate it again. So at that time, for that particular time, I'll pause that flow. I'll not like deactivate it, I'll pause it, and why it was paused, I'll get the reason here. Similarly, we can also in screen flow also there's an option we can pause the flow, and we can have these details here, like why it was paused. And for failed flows also we'll get these details, but these are limited details that we get, like what was the element where it was paused, what was the current API name, and the interview guide. All these details will find you here. So, is there any other question?
I see there are no other questions, so we can start with the quiz, Anjali.
Okay. So, is it
Yeah.
Sonali? Like, I'm doing this, like, I'm not sure if we want to share that screen, how it is.
No, no, no. Created a quiz, so she will
Okay.
handle the quiz set part. Yeah. Over to
Okay.
you, Manasi.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks. Thanks,
Yes.
guys.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Anjali.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you, Anjali, for such an insightful session. The session was full of learnings and knowledge, which will definitely help all.
Yeah.
So, guys, now it's quiz time. So, we'll get ready for the quiz. Let me share my screen.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to share the screen. Just confirm once my screen is visible.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, so like some guidelines for the quiz. All the attendees need to enter joinmyquiz.com on your browsers, and then you need to enter the game code and proceed by entering your name. If there are any queries related to quiz, please let me know. I'll paste this joinmyquiz.com link in the chat box as well. Okay, I can see the participants are joining. 20 of them have joined. So I guess the total attendees are 57, including 57, and the 25 of them have joined.
So
Yeah,
limit was exceeded since it
share
is
the
limited
code
to
as well.
25. Yeah, actually, the limit was join 25 player limit.
Okay, I'll check for the limit.
Manasvi, can you try to click on that 25 and update?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Try joining now.
No, unable to.
Hmm, just a minute. Give me a minute, guys. Hello? Yeah, guys, sorry for the inconvenience. Actually, there is some technical issue with the account. So, what we have decided is I'll be reading out the quiz questions, and you just need to put out the answers in the chat box. And those who will be answering like the questions first will get the points, and accordingly, we'll be distributing the Salesforce swags. Hello?
Yes, Manasvi, if you can share the screen and read out the question, so whoever will answer the correct answer will get a point.
Sure, sure, Sonali. I'll do the
And we
same.
will have like the top three winners, and they will get swags or certificate.
So one more thing. So everyone who joined the quiz, do we need to input our answers there or here itself?
No, in the chat box,
In the
because
chat
as
box.
it's a free version, so you can put on the chat box. Manasvi, you can start.
Yeah, I'll share the screen, the questions.
Manasvi, the screen is not visible.
Okay, I'll try resharing. Let me know once the screen is visible. Mm, yeah, is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay, guys. So the first question is, when should you build a flow? And the options are every.
Yeah, can you read out the question, Manasvi? You are not audible. Hello.
Hello. Yes, Sonali, are you there?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, actually, there is some issue with the audio video, so I think this time we need to cancel the quiz. Uh,
Okay,
yeah.
fine, no problem.
Yeah,
Also,
so
quick
what we will
suggestion like
do, yeah, what we will do, all those who have checked in, we will send a quiz link. That quiz will be active for some time, maybe few hours, and then those who will answer that quiz fast will be announced as the winner. So you have to just stay tuned on the email. We will share the quiz link soon after the session, maybe today or by tomorrow.
Okay. Also,
Yeah,
Sonali, quick suggestion like we will wait for 10 more minutes up to
yeah.
5:30. If you can make it this 5 questions quiz in Kahoot, it will be better. No? If possible. No?
I think Manasvi has joined. Manasvi, can you?
Okay.
Hello? Am I audible now?
Yes, Manasvi.
Yeah, sorry for the inconvenience. I'll share my screen again. So the first question, many of them have answered.